Nancy had the idea for this morning, so I'm going to let her introduce it and uh, ask her to explain to us why she um, suggested we do this and go from there.
Okay, well, we all have different needs and different topics we need addressed. And some have been addressed before, I'm sure, but one thing we want to do is like narrow the amount of information that we give at one time so it's not as overwhelming to assimilate into our work. And so I had the idea talking with Landon that maybe a live poll could be a good idea where each and every person could just suggest a topic that would be beneficial to them. I mean, even if they don't know if it's beneficial to anybody else, if it's beneficial to you or you think it would be, just pop it out there and let us know. We can take turns saying what we need. Joe can't be here today, but he piped in and gave me a few. He said he'd like more information on blogging, the nuts and bolts, and podcast step by step how to do that, and possibly the use of YouTube. So you may or may not have some more information you want on those, and I'll write that down that he sent. He's having computer issues, so that's why he's not here. So it's really just an open floor. If you want to take turns and suggest something that you would like to see covered in these meetings, and we will do our best to present those and in a succinct way that's easy to assimilate for all of us and put into use without too much information at once. Another reason I was thinking of this is currently I have a lot of open spots for topics, and I thought if you gave me some more ideas, I could find the right person and start filling those in. So anybody has, and somebody has their hand up or no?
Shimrit.
Oh, I can't see you, Shimrit. Well, anyway, go ahead.
Okay. Can everybody hear me better now? I switched to my laptop from my phone.
Yes.
Perfect.
Okay. Something that I'm considering is moving off of Amazon only and trying to spread out more. And so I'd like to know what people who maybe, I know we've had people have mentioned Ingram Sparks and talked about that a little bit, but I would like to learn more about other avenues. I mean, I know I could just upload an EPUB file to iBooks, but you know, what else can I do if I want to not be exclusively Amazon? The thing is I have people who would love to buy my book, but they refuse to buy anything on Amazon. They don't want to use Amazon. So, you know, I'm thinking it might be a good idea to maybe I know that I won't get as much money coming in unless I get a lot more people buying the book. So anyway, just that's what I'd want to, that's what I'm interested in knowing.
That reason has come up for me with people too, and it's one reason that I went wide. And I know some others on here went wide too, although I did stay on Amazon. But there are other sources, so we can gather those together and present them.
That would be great.
Okay.
I'm going to throw out a ground rule here. It's against the law of the community to have any thinking like, well, I'm probably the only one that doesn't know about this or whatever. Get rid of all that kind of thinking, okay?
John?
Yeah, experience just means we've made a bunch of mistakes, by the way. That's all it is. That's the definition of experience. So don't worry, guys.
You had a question or a suggestion, John?
Well, personally, not by myself now, but I was very interested in Landon's presentation at NFTs. I'd like to learn more about that. So another presentation from Landon might be worthwhile there. I know Phil's interested in that, and
Me
So-
too.
as far as authors are concerned, I don't see why it can't be open to them as well. And
Mhm.
so that would be my suggestion.
Okay. I think originally we had that in the works, so, and I wrote it down, so Landon's listening too.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Somebody else?
Well,
Kathy.
looking for my list.
Kathy, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just, from talking with you, Nancy, when I was asking you about the website,
Mhm.
I went onto WordPress and I started to develop a website, and it is fun, like you said, but it is complicated.
Yeah.
So, I know that a lot of people already have their websites. This is something new for me. So any kind of help on how to, developing it, what to add on, how to do things, disclaimers. I remember Dara saying that disclaimers were important to have on there. Do they automatically come or, with the website? Just different things, just so that I'm set up for success and not the failure.
Okay. So it's not live yet, or it is?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Gosh, no, not yet.
Okay.
Working on it.
All right, that's a good topic to add.
You were a great help, though. Thank you. Thank you
Oh,
so
you're-
much.
You're welcome. I'm glad you found it fun.
Yeah.
Bill, did you find your list?
You heard that, huh?
I did, yeah.
No, I didn't. I've got all kinds of 3x5 cards spread around my laptop here. And after one of my talks with Kim, a month ago now, maybe longer, I jotted down some things I wanted to suggest we talk about, but I can't find that doggone list anywhere. I've got 3x5 cards everywhere, and I know it's in here, and I'm trying to remember what I wrote. And I think I've heard a couple of the items mentioned, the getting your website going, starting the blog, which we heard about last week. And I had a couple other really what I thought were great ideas, but I can't find them and I can't remember. But I'll keep thinking and looking.
Okay. And you can send them in later if you want to.
Yeah. Okay.
As well.
Thank you. Gosh, I'm surrounded by 3x5 cards.
Eileen, you have your hand up?
I'd like to look more into doing podcasts of some of my blogs. Now, I've noticed on WordPress that you can do it. I'm not sure if there's money involved or what the story is, or whether you can do it free on Anchor or combine the two. I don't know.
You
So I'd
said
like to look at podcasts,
say-
yes,
Okay.
of my blogs. So I'd just be interested in that.
There is a recorded one of these Thursday calls about how to start up your own podcast. If I'm not mistaken, we did that, but always
Yes.
happy to revisit it as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, you walked us through Anchor, for one thing.
One of the things we're going to have to keep in mind is that this is a growing community. And this is Craig's second meeting. So everything that we have all heard over the last year or 2 years, however long you've been on here, he has not had the benefit of. And so one of the 7 laws of teaching is review, review, review. And so we just have to keep that in mind, and review is good for everybody.
Mhm.
So even if it's something that we covered before and you want to hear more about it, bring it up. And Craig, anything you need help on, jump in here and let us know.
Yeah, I'm
Well, if
happy
I-
to repeat anything.
Thank you. Yeah, I would say, just off the top of my head, what would be like the top 5 places for marketing? Talk about some of those things for me, maybe, and I'm specifically thinking about on the internet. So what does that look like?
Okay. That's always a good one. Thank you.
because it changes.
Yeah. Eileen, did you have another question? Your hand is still up there. No? Okay.
Okay, while you're thinking, I'm going to throw something else out here, that Nancy is now a member of the Dream Team, and she's making her debut as a book writing coach. And so I think I already mentioned that we have started an advisory council, because I need lots of help. And the Bible says, surround yourself with many counselors. And so all of the Dream Team members are on that advisory council. So you can reach out to any of them with, ideas that you have as well. Okay, because we meet on the first Monday of the month, and we had our first meeting last month, and we probably have a list of 50 things that we think will help the community, but we need to hear from you. So keep that in mind too.
What does that consist of? What does that mean, a writer's coach?
Nancy?
I knew you were going to say that. Well, I guess I would say if someone's working on, whether specifically we said books, but or blogs, and you're there's a lot of things that might bog you down in trying to get through your book, or what order to put things, maybe with pages, or gosh, I'm just trying to think whatever might be hindering you in the actual getting the actual writing done, any roadblocks you have, or mental blocks you have, or the actual doing of how to place it in your book, or maybe even things that what you would be thinking of as you're finishing your book, a little bit of thought into what you do next to get more help with it. So I'm thinking just sort of encouraging somebody through their book and looking at whatever roadblocks might be there, or what help you might need or questions you might have, especially if it's your first book or any book. I mean, we all run into things, no matter how many books we've written, like, how should I place this? Where should I place this? Is this story working? And of course, you could get proofreaders to help you know your story. Maybe just more encouragement and a little bit of know-how to approach your own book. And, nonfiction or fiction. I've written both, more nonfiction, but I think there's a little bit different approach in those.
Mm-hmm.
And my approach might be very different than someone else's approach. So part of the thinking is, what works for one person might not work for another. And, how you set your book up to get yourself through it. Does that make sense, Tom?
Yes.
It does.
Kim?
And I'll tell you, you're perfect for it. You really are. Your temperament and everything as a coach, you really are. It's great. Congratulations.
Well, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Okay, Kim is also a writing coach.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, she's on the advisory team. And
Yep.
Kim, I think you were trying to say something a minute ago.
I've got a puppy here. That's why I keep muting myself over and over again. I was just going to, I don't want to hear when she starts barking again when she's done with this new bone. Anyway, no, I was just going to say, Phil, I keep notes in all the meetings when I talk to everybody. And one thing that you and I talked about, I know too, was and this deals with what Nancy's dealing with and me too, about ISBNs and copyrights and, so the process of writing too, but that becomes an issue as you finish your book too, and you determine how you're going to market and everything too. So, and I wanted to say, just for myself, it helps me to have specific step-by-step, concrete ideas to kind of work off of. Like, I talked to Landon after he had done his NFT training, which I really enjoyed. And I too would find that more on that, and step by steps, especially with tech stuff, because I'm finding that there are formats, of course, that like everybody, I guess I use some formats a lot more than others. And so when I start to get into another one, it's a time consuming thing. So if you have something concrete to kind of say, this is how you start 1, 2, 3, that would be helpful, I think. So I'm now going off again.
Enjoy that dog.
She's a love. She's a love.
I just had an idea go through my head, but I lost it. Something someone mentioned before. Well, maybe it'll come back in a moment. Any other ideas? So few people visiting that are here in audio only. So if any of you there want to speak up, feel free. Craig?
I got another kind of a specific question, but about your book, Coaching. With my last novel that I wrote, I also just wrote a companion workbook to go along with it. So it deals a lot with addiction and that kind of thing, but I've never formatted a workbook for people to actually work through. And so is that something that you would help with the coaching kind of thing?
I don't see why I couldn't, or even Kim with that. It's if you don't have pictures, I don't think it would be too much different than formatting a regular book, It would just be laid out differently.
Yeah,
It's
I just didn't want to.
layout, and it's a different layout. It's a little bit more complex, and you could even do graphics in it. But you'd probably want to change your size, to make it workbook size, so people can write in it. I'm guessing. I don't know.
Yes.
Craig.
Yeah.
Anyway, we can talk about that when I talk to you too.
Okay. Perfect.
Oh,
Sorry to
I know.
interrupt, Nancy.
Oh, no, good. I know what I thought of. We had a program not too long ago, a little while back. Michelle Murray presented, and it was on different editing programs. And some of you might have missed that. Besides hiring our own editors, there's, she mentioned many. There's Grammarly, which you probably know, and Pro Writing Aid, and she mentioned several I can't think of the names of now, but 4 or 5. So if anybody's still interested in helps with editing, maybe before it ever goes to your editor, Craig, you? Okay. So I don't know, that just popped in my head that editing programs might be a help to hear again. I know there's a video out there, but it's been a little while back. They work a little differently.
Hey, Nancy, Michelle, are you there? Because I'm on my phone. You guys, my computer's still hacked, the one with the camera. Is Michelle here?
Yep.
Yes, she just came on.
Hi,
Yeah.
hey, Michelle. Good to see you. You and I talked about recently about the Amazon publishing program. Remember? When we were on, can you update them on that just really quick?
What about it?
Well, you had said that it kind of wasn't what you thought it was cracked up to be.
It wasn't Amazon, it was Atticus.
That's one of them I couldn't think of. Atticus.
Yeah. Atticus, you can write in Atticus, you can publish with Atticus. If you use a lot of different fonts and images for the chapter headings, those are trickier with Atticus. It's right now, because it's so new, it's really limited in what fonts and stuff it can use. I think for a beginning writer who's first doing their first book, I think it's fabulous for easy layouts, pop things in right where you need them. If you've been doing this for a while, like Kim and I, where we've got experience doing layouts in other areas in different programs, and we've got the freedom to use whatever font we can find, whatever images we can find in different kinds of layouts, it's a little constraining. So that's the update I know.
It helped me. I was having problems getting my numbering right, because with all the page breaks and the paragraph breaks and all that kind of stuff and the way the page numbers go and not having it on divider pages and having it on, that just can get really complicated. So Atticus really saved my life there because my books are a little more complicated, but I don't have a lot of graphics. And so it's worked really, really well for me. And they happen to have the font I want for my chapter titles. So, it worked really well for me.
Can you explain a little bit more about what Atticus is, what it does? Is a book formatter?
You can actually write right in it.
Yeah, it formats your book, but you can also write right in it. The only problem I have with writing right in it is that I can't use Pro Writer's Aid. They said they were going to put that in, but they've not added it yet. So I have to write in, I write in Word and then I transfer it into Atticus chapter by chapter in order to get the book all laid out, with numbering right and everything. So
it has really cool features where you can make that very first letter of each chapter
drop cap
a little bit bigger and kind of fancy, and you can add your little graphics of breaks between your scenes, and so it's a great program for laying out stuff like that.
Yeah, and you can add, if you want a different line break, you can add new ones. So, it's good. It works. It's very, very workable. It saved me a lot of headaches.
Then you can publish or export it in whatever format you need to publish.
Yep. You can do it to for a PDF to upload to Amazon or upload to Ingram Spark. You can do it in EPUB. You can do it in Mobi. There's several different formats that it will get you so you can download out of and then upload to wherever you're going wide.
That's why I love this group. I learn things.
And maybe this brings us back to topic in a way too, Nancy and Tom, that maybe we take a time here and there and just do a periodic update on little things and everybody jumps in where they do or whatever. And because my conversation with Michelle was certainly very helpful to me that afternoon. Michelle, really it was. So to update things, because things change so fast. I mean, that's why they change so fast, or so it seems.
It might be worth it to have, does this sound like it's too spread out if we did like one editing program one week and one editing program another week?
I think that would be better, because when you hit too many at once, it makes it too hard. It's just too much. It's like a fire hose.
Yeah. Or maybe like Dabble is another one that you can write into. I haven't experienced it with it very much, if it goes as far as Atticus, but maybe two that are similar alike, and then, one or two at a time. That would take some weeks, but one might work better for one writer than another.
So this is these apps are what you would use rather than paying for someone to format the book for you. The poor man's way of doing it.
Yes.
Okay.
The program, Atticus, I can't remember what I paid for it. It's around $125 or something.
$149, I think it is.
$149.
Yeah.
Anything under $200, I can aspire to, but when it gets over $200, I just can't afford it. So Atticus was wonderful for me because it's like, oh wow, okay, I can stretch and I can get this one.
Yeah,
and I really liked it.
Yeah, I bit the bullet and bought Pro Writing Aid a couple months ago, and it's been worth every penny to me.
Oh yeah,
it's really helped.
Yeah,
I love Pro Writing Aid.
That one, I believe you can pay per month or just buy it.
I knew I needed it, and it's another set of eyes. It's the way I think of it, and so
I think I bought it per year. But
yeah, that's how I do it, because I can't afford to buy the whole thing. It's another one of those over $200 programs, but I can do it yearly, so that way I don't have to worry about it.
No one's brought up one thing Maury and I talked about. Maury, you brought it. What's the cost effectiveness of writing in a way? Are you writing one book? Are you writing more? And Shimri, what you're talking about is this is worth it because I'm doing X number of books and, you know, that kind of thing. But really, what are the sometimes sad and sorry nuts and bolts of how much do I want to invest in this at this point in time? And I don't know how you really totally determine that over time to some degree, but I would be very interested in other people's opinions on how they've determined that, you know, whether it's worth it or not. Like when I listened to Michelle, I thought, okay, you know, that sounds like a great program for me, and you know, that kind of thing. But I don't know, something like that, maybe. I don't even know how you'd really, you know, gel to address that issue. But if you're just starting out, you have all this stuff. What do you choose? You know, where do you put your money, and how much are you going to sink into one book, or are you looking at others? Kind of a planning thing, I guess, which hooks into my planning brain. You know, that's a suggestion.
Okay.
Thanks, Kim. I've often thought that I wished Tom would have been more effective in his marketing and had found me sooner, because I believe it would have, I know without question, it would have saved me a significant amount of money. And as somebody now who's been at this a little over 3 years, and I'm embarrassed. I'm not even going to tell you because I'm embarrassed. When I sat down the other day, I may have mentioned this previously, and I hadn't reported any of the expense that I incurred in the project of writing a book, developing a website, et cetera, from the moment I began. I mean, I have the records, but I never recorded it. I never gave it to my tax preparer. And finally, she said to me, well, you need to give me that stuff. And so I had to sit down and go back over the last 3 years and find all the invoices and all the credit card charges and and it blew me away when I finally got to the hard number over the last 3 years, 19, 20, and 21, of what I actually have spent since I've first decided to try to write something. And I've often thought, had I been a part of a group like this at the beginning, how much more wisely I would have been able to invest my dollars. And I have no doubt that I would have spent a significantly smaller amount of money, which I'm not making a definitive statement right now and saying that it would have been wiser to spend a smaller amount of money, but at the end of the day, there's no question. Anybody looks at the number of books that I've sold so far would say your return on your investment is not very, you really kind of want to keep that a secret. And so to Kim's point, and I'm not sure you need to replant this or regurgitate this regularly, but to just be able to have come in and said, Tom, here's where I am. And I know that Tom would have rolled up his sleeves and spent all the time that would be required to give me his thoughts on this. But, you know, I got a website development. I'm writing the book. I got to have editing. I got a cover design, you know, all the things that most all of you have gone through to get where you are with a book or books that you've produced and published. Tom, what's the most economical way? I mean, I don't have an unlimited pit of money. What's the most economical way that I, as a new author, should approach this? Is there a budget that I shouldn't exceed within reason, you know, for cover design, for X, Y, and Z, and then based on how much you're going to spend, what is it reasonable for you to anticipate regarding a return? And it seems to me that those kinds of questions, well, I just know personally, again, speaking very personally, I would have been much more frugal in what I did, and I would be even more grateful, if that's possible, than I already am for all the wealth of information that I've gathered over the time of my participation in this group. But that's one thing for me that would be, even if I were to start a second project, which I'm actually thinking about right now, being able to pull up a file that CIC has created, expense overview on the writing of a book, and it just by category, what dollar number, for example, I'm using a marketing guy who's not too bad. I mean, he's been helpful along the way. Every now and then he does something that I have to thank him for and say, that was really pretty good. His name is Duncan, this guy, Gordon Duncan. You may have heard of him. I'm not sure. But in any event, Gordon's been extremely helpful in terms of what should I be spending on advertising? What makes sense? How far should I go? How many dollars should I spend? And that's just one category. So I don't want to belabor this, but boy, with that just seems to me that would be, because I don't think any of us are, maybe, I'm not sure, independently wealthy and are, shouldn't be accountable for how much we spend on this. So I just think that would be, boy, if we could just have a session where somebody is putting up on the screen a budget overview on what you should anticipate, how to spend your money wisely as you're developing your book and trying to get to the end point where it's finally out in the market for people to buy.
I do to some degree think that's an individualized thing, Maurice. So, I mean, I don't think that, you've gained some wisdom, like we all do in this, but it really is an individualized thing to some degree. But I do know too that, the authors that I've worked with and published and taught that have gone all in on their first book and spent a fortune. It's like I don't want to say it this way, but I'm going to just say it bluntly, the debt hooks them. And it's like, okay, so they're in it now because they've got to make sure that there's something they get out of the next book or the book after that. It's like, wait a minute, I put all this time, effort, and money in there, So I think your idea is a great idea, and I appreciate your honesty on it, because all of us have been there one way or another, So
Yeah, I'd like to hop in.
not
And
alone.
first of all, yeah, Mari, you're awesome. Thanks, man. And this is a good topic. Nancy, I think we might be veering a little bit, but I hope it's okay. Second books, more than anything, is not a lack of inspiration. It's the amount of money you spend on the first one and didn't get a return. And there's a lot of second and third books in all of you guys. But burning a pile of cash, or even just burning a little extra money that and you don't get a return, it is and can be very discouraging. And so I hear you guys. I know that Tom could organize that really well with the dream team of folks who are gifted and the vendors we have. But I am going to do my best to encourage, especially Mari and all you guys. That second book is worthwhile, especially after learning that lesson from the first one. You've built an audience, even if it's a small one. And even if audiences don't like you, sometimes they're like, well, they couldn't have got worse than the first time, right? But typically you guys are putting out good content, and people, you've got those fans, you've got those readers who want to hear the next thing. But yeah, it'll be a good, and I'll keep putting this on Tom and the vendors and stuff. We put us organizing, like, what's a reasonable amount to spend on this thing? Is not a bad topic, Nancy, going forward, because I don't want you guys to quit writing or quit having aspirations because you've been disappointed. I know it's hard. I'm sorry, guys.
What's discouraging?
And I think
it's totaling up all the hours you've spent writing your book and then dividing that into how much income you got out of it.
Oh, don't do that.
That hourly rate will just totally, it'll force the decision. Why are you in this?
You're a salaried employee.
You don't want to be in it for the money anyway.
Yeah, but Phil, I know authors that write because they like to write, and they write for themselves. They don't even consider the money.
Right. That's my point. If you just look at, what your return is just based upon hours spent and income revenue in, it's not going to be worth it. But you can't let that hinder you. And another thing, I'm trained as a project manager with IBM. I went through the whole rigmarole of getting internationally certified, taking these hour-long examination and stuff. And one of the things that you learn when you're starting a project, you got to put a budget together because that's what drives you through to completion. And that's also where you start to make decisions, or you make choices, and you look at alternatives to stay within budget. And so Maury, what you're saying is, that makes common sense to me. Just you need to know what you got to work with, and then you do what you can to make it work. That's all.
Well, I appreciate that. Just one of the problems that as I look back on this, why did I do this? Why did I spend as much money as I spent? Well, number one, I have resources, and so it's like when you're going to go out to buy a car. There's all you can. I haven't been in the car market for a while, but I think you can find a new car somewhere for 20, 25 grand these days. You also spend 80 or 90 or $100,000 for a car, and the idea is, what can you afford? What makes sense? All you're trying to do is get from point A to point B. I mean, depends on what you're concerned about. Bottom line is, there's a wide range there of how much you're going to spend. When I'm thinking about website development, I'll just use that as an example. What I've learned from this group is I could have a website, might not look exactly the way that it looks, might not have exactly everything that it has now, but I could have a website that's presentable, that when I consider the number of people who have actually seen my website, quite frankly, I'm not sure it would really matter as long as it reasonably identified me and told people a little bit about me and maybe about my work. I'm not sure how it would look. I'm not sure that I needed to spend with the company I chose to use, and I appreciate the company I chose to use. They weren't cheap. They weren't the most expensive, but they weren't cheap. I now think about, even though I've enjoyed the relationship, I know categorically I didn't need to spend the amount of money I spent to get the website that I have. I could have something that's totally adequate without having spent nearly the amount of money that I spent. And I can go right down the list. I had my book edited 4 different times. I don't know that I need, and I paid every time for the editing. I probably didn't need to do that. So all I'm saying is just to have a boilerplate outline, step by step, including the budget, even a parameter. How much should I spend for a website? And of course, now there's, based on discussions we've had in the past, and what somebody just said a little earlier, I forget, Kathleen or somebody's developing and trying to do it themselves, doesn't cost you anything. And so, and there may not be maybe Tom, for example, doesn't want to say and put his name on an actual, look, this is what my experience causes me to recommend to you as a new author. Here's a budget that at least is a beginning point for you. And of course, let's just say website development. Let's just say $2,000. Develop your website, budget, $2,000. Then if I'm going to go beyond that, and depending on how far beyond that 2,000, when do I start to look at this and say, well, you're crazy. Somebody just give me an estimate for $8 grand, they'll do my website. Well, I can go back and say, well, okay, Tom's experience is recommending $2 grand total cost for website development. I got a company out there that tells me they'll do it for me. Be Cadillac, be great, for $8 grand. Obviously, there's a lot of questions you ask yourself. Can you afford that? Does it make sense? Are you really going to get $6,000 more worth value if you let them do it versus if you take the approach that Tom's recommending for $2 grand? So you get my point. That's in every category of book writing. And just personally, I've gained tremendous amounts of wisdom and knowledge and insight and perspective in my time here with the group. Invaluable to me. I think one of the things that if somebody said to me, Maura, you've been with a little over a year now, if I'd have had this budget given to me at the beginning of the process, of course, I probably wouldn't appreciate it so much because I now know, having spent as much money as I spent, I wouldn't yet recognize, had I not done that, I wouldn't recognize how much more economically it could have been done. But anyway, you get my point here, and it's just, it would be an invaluable thing, it seems, if Tom would have that in his library and you know, here, click on it, it's this file, click on this, boom, ding, there it is. All the bases covered, every element of writing a book, all the potential expense, the reasonable amounts you consider spending, total X. It would be just very helpful, to me.
Can I add something to that?
Amen. Go
My
ahead.
little hand's been up here.
Yeah, go ahead.
A weakness that I have that is really, really difficult for me is scheduling myself. I can schedule to write because all I do is say, I'm going to write every day, and I just sit down and write every day. It's not a problem. But scheduling for things like social media, for any kind of advertising I'm trying to do, or I've been wanting to do more with what is that book? Not BookBub, the other one. Anyway, I got it. Book Baby. Yeah. No, not Book Baby. Anyway, it's an online thing where readers and writers come together, and writers can sell their books. And what's that?
Online book club?
It's kind of like that. I can't remember what it's called. It's through Amazon. It's Amazon's book club, whatever. I can find it on my phone. But anyway, I got a book to learn how to really use that to help me, but I haven't even had time to read the book, But just for me, if somebody, maybe Gordon, he's not busy enough, right? Could put together a booklet that's just a schedule, maybe a 3-month schedule of, Monday, do Facebook, LinkedIn, spend, a half an hour, putting something up on these things. Or even Monday, go to Canva and create some things, Tuesday, put them up these different places, Wednesday, you know what I'm saying? Because I, especially with the issues that I'm having, I wake up in the morning, and if I'm in really zombie state, I wake up and I'm like, what do? I can't remember. I don't know what, and my husband says, well, make a list, write it down. And I write it down and I lose it. And, it's just really hard for me. But if there were if there were a guide, where I could just go step by step, have a schedule, that would be amazing. I would buy it.
So let me ask a quick question on that. How many of you, and just say yeah or something, how many of you post something 5 days a week on Facebook? So are there a fair number of you who don't? So and so I'm gonna give 60 seconds real quick, if you don't mind, Nancy. 60 seconds real quick. How many of you remember the 5-paragraph essay in high school, college, whatever the case may be, right? So paragraph 1 is a problem we're all facing, right? Paragraphs 2, 3, and 4 are you're speaking to those problems, right? And then paragraph 5 is the summary, also known as a good Southern Baptist sermon, which my father did, right? But the 3 points in the middle have to be alliterative, right? So, okay. So over the weekend, topic about writing or on your subject matter, I want you to write a 5-paragraph essay that's about 400 words. Don't agonize over this. This is not what you're going to put in a book. This is just, we're talking 250 to 400 words, okay? Post that, and I'll repeat this because I didn't ask anybody to get a pen out. Post that on your blog. Mail it to your email database. Share that blog on Facebook. That blog on LinkedIn. Now, all of a sudden, you have hit your blog, LinkedIn. That's just on Monday, right? All of a sudden, bing, 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 all over the place, right? Now, write your 5 paragraphs in such a way that they're freestanding thoughts. That'll take practice. It will. Break each one of those paragraphs up into your content Tuesday through Friday. And it's your theme for the week. And then all of a sudden, out of that one piece of content, that's almost 10 pieces right there. And here's the good thing. People don't remember what we post on Facebook or LinkedIn. They don't. You get to go back and use it all over again at some point in time. Listen,
And
it's like,
different things.
what's that?
I say different people see different things. They might not have seen the
100%.
first one.
So let me say it again real quick, if you don't mind. In 5-paragraph essay, 250, 400 words. And it's good practice. And at the end, I'm going to give you an aha moment, okay? 5-paragraph essay. Monday, your blog, Facebook, and Instagram, right? Then you break each one of those paragraphs up into individual pieces of content Tuesday through Friday. Does that make sense? Now, here's the beauty. You guys ready? Here's the aha. If you do that 48 weeks over the course of the next year, you've also just written your next book. It's not, literally, I'm not lying to you. If you think through it, or it can be musings on whatever. It really can be. It doesn't have to be your next tome, but it can be a nice $6.99 paperback that you're like, hey guys, collection of writings. It keeps getting you out there. It takes practice, but that's how you can keep some content in there every single day. And the good thing is it's not repetitive. It's just your theme for the week. Just for my folks, my theme for the week right now is how to repurpose content. And then that's what I do to demonstrate it. So if you're wondering, how in the world am I going to put something out every single day of the week? I don't have any idea. Well, then just do it once. Write a 5-paragraph essay, break it up. It'll be great practice. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. Sorry, that doesn't answer your question completely about how to create a schedule, but it's the 60-second version, or maybe the 5-minute version.
Genius, Gordon, genius.
I stole it from someone. I promise you. I don't know, but I always tell people I steal stuff from. You get credit one time. That's what I learned as a pastor. I only quote people one time. After that, it's mine.
Well, I was going to add something. 2 points I was thinking of. Maury made me think of this. When I first met Tom, I've said this before, I was really struggling with the whole idea of reviews. And I'm reading a book right now that hit something for me that was, wow, it was like an aha moment for me. Now, I gave up the whole worry about reviews a long time ago. But this author was saying that, you write a book. I mean, this has to go with all the money you spent, Maury, okay? And we write a book and then we're trying to see, what we get back from it. I mean, are we even selling books? Is anybody even reading them? We all probably feel that, okay, I got this book out there and I don't know, we can see some who've bought and read, but did they pass the book on? That kind of thing. How many people actually are reading it? Well, this author was saying, I'm barely into the book, but you have the people who, okay, she said, and Tom had said similar, you have 100 people who read the book, you might have 5 reviews. And you might have some that are like, yeah, I like this book, and some that are like, I don't like this book. I don't like this author's writing. I don't really care for this. Okay, that's just the way it is. But she brought out the whole idea of the silent middle. The people who might tell their friend, oh, I really like this book. You ought to read it. But they will never tell you. Now, as far as I can tell, that is the gospel truth. Your friends and people may tell each other, and you may never be told and may never hear. Your very closest people to you may never say it to you, but they may to other people. And she made this good point about that silent middle. And she gave some points about, maybe how to look up and see who might be your silent middle. But I thought that is a really good point to keep in mind, that we cannot always know where our book's gone, who's reading it. We might know who loved it. We might know who hated it, but that's the small part. Beyond that, we just don't know. And so you want to maybe try to find, it has to do with your niche and your readers, but that silent middle and who they are. And then the other thing I wanted to say was, Also regarding spending, I spent a little more, it wasn't really a lot, but more on my first book project, and really what it was supposed to be for, I got nothing for it. My book got published, but I got nothing for that money that was given. It had to do with marketing, and there was nothing that was done. And I was thinking, as we were talking more, I mean, a person could spend thousands on a website or a little bit, but are those thousands that you're spending, are they only building it for you, or are they also marketing for you? Because it kind of boils, all the time it boils back down to, what are we doing? You know, how are we going to utilize that, that we have built or that we've built ourselves? And when I get, which is frequently, and I'm sure you do too, emails, and even through LinkedIn, people and businesses who want to help you publish, they want to help you edit. I mean, that's fine. That is what they do. And they're offering their services in case you need it. But as I told Tom recently, I keep coming back to, thank you very much, but I'm already working with some services that are helping me. And that service is Christian Authors Community. Because within here, we have some super brilliant people and that do their job really well. And I can think of 6 right off the top of my head that I've gone to for help, that have either very generously just answered my questions. I mean, Tom, Gordon, Landon, Michelle Murray, Eileen, different people Kim, who have just answered questions for me freely. But if I want to pursue their services further, or any others, and there are some services in our group I have paid for, and it's much less because it's within our group and it's discounted to us, and it's like right here at our fingertips. And so when I get these emails and I'm like, oh, that sounds really nice, but I think so-and-so could do that for me if I choose to do that. Or within this group, what we learn every week, you know, I just kind of hoard that up and write the notes and save the videos and go back and listen to that or read that. I'm like, I've already got it given to me right here. And that is like the beauty of this group, that we have all this info to share with each other and do with each other. And we don't, in my opinion, have to look so far outside and pay as much, because we're freely giving to each other, as well as maybe charging some services. So that's just my take on that, because that sort of freed me up from thinking about money to spend, because frankly, I do as much of it as I can by myself because of money, and then reach out when I need help. You know, and if I don't understand something, somebody here understands it, or maybe several, you know. And so sometimes one of you will just say something that clicks for me. I'm like, oh, I can use that, you know. And so I really appreciate that. And it doesn't, for me, boil down to so much money that I need to put out. And we can do things. Like Eileen and I have a little project. We're doing this next week. And I'm all excited about it because we're going to do a little podcast, audio podcast, and it's something that we can probably both benefit from when it's done. And it's really not costing us anything to do it. Can't think of a penny, you know? So.
Can I just say, talking about feedback, like the people you don't really hear all the time. I was doing a reading for the library there recently for children, and I discovered that some of the children in the group had read my books in the library. Some of them, they knew the whole plots and everything, but they still enjoyed listening to the new books and were able to discuss the books. So that was great feedback for me.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got about 5 minutes left.
Okay, let me just throw this out. I'm sorry, Tom, you speak.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, this whole discussion the last few minutes has touched on something that I've been thinking about for myself, not so much as producing a schedule, but as some of my IT background says, to use mind maps, if anyone is anyone knows what that is. And I'm thinking of creating these mind maps for each phase of this book publishing project that we go through. And yesterday and then the day before, I was looking at, okay, how would I mind map the book launch process as a pictorial, with just, the center circle being, the book launch. Then you have all these different tasks surrounding it that you have to do in order to get through a book launch. And I'm thinking of getting some mind map software and going ahead and doing that for each aspect of this publishing phase, and then giving the mind map as an incentive to people to sign, to give me their email address when, when they come to my website, which I still am working on too. And so I was just, but the idea I have is just, there's a process involved. This is what you need to think to do. There's a sequence of events when you need to do them, and to help people who are planning the book launch, I'll give them a single sheet of paper with all these different tasks, and that it'll kind of lay it out and make the road easier for them. So not a daily schedule, but just a general task. That's what I'm thinking. So if anyone uses mind maps, please let me know, because I'm looking for software. I'm done.
Okay, Phil, I can help you there, but I tell you right now, if you do that, we're going to be having you on Thursdays periodically, sharing those kind of things with us.
Yeah, I figured sooner or later you'd be hitting me up for something like that anyway.
Yes.
I don't have a whole lot of expertise. I know a lot about a lot of things, but no real depth. I know how to get through it though.
Well, not everybody needs depth in the beginning.
Yeah.
There's something that I wanted to share this morning in the conversation, but what I'm going to do is put it in a video. If you all promise me you'll watch the video. The reason I want to do this is because a lot of what we're talking about this morning is shared in the team channels. And so I've done a lot of changing there, but I'm going to make a video that goes down through that, both for new people coming in and for people who have been here for a while. One of the reasons that I feel like God wanted me to start this community was that when I came online in 2011 with my novel, I was working with a small independent publisher that was having a harder time getting my books in Christian bookstores as I would getting traditional publishers to read my manuscript. And this was when Amazon was sweeping in and changing everything. And authors were asking, what's a platform? What's it mean to brand? How come I have to have 1,000 people on Facebook to get a publisher to talk to me? And all these kinds of things. And when I came on for myself, but what I saw immediately was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Christian authors trying to figure this out, doing what everybody else was doing. But the problem is that nobody was measuring it to see if it was working, and it wasn't. And I had this mental picture of a bunch of lemmings following themselves over the cliff. And I said, God, there's something wrong with this. How can I help these authors? And that's when he told me to start the community. This session today, thank you, Nancy, great idea, is educating me so much and showing me where the holes are in the community that I need to fill. And like Nancy says, there are some brilliant minds in here. But the interesting thing is there's only about 13 or 14 people on here today, which is basically about a third of the membership. So what I'm finding out, even in the community, is that, how can I say this? First of all, there are people who are in love with the idea of being an author. But when they figure out what they have to do to be an author, not so much. So what I say to those authors, if this is a hobby, admit that it's a hobby. Quit trying to tell yourself that you are a full-fledged author. You enjoy doing this, and be grateful for that ability to use your mind, but don't force yourself. Let yourself grow into being an author. Maury's idea is a good idea, but I know that if I do that with every author that I'm talking to at the very beginning, it will be so mind blowing to them because there's so many things that they, well, God just told me to write a book and I'm going to write a book and won't he do everything for me? Well, it's kind of like when he calls you to be a missionary. It may be 20 years before you see any fruit from your labor because it's an intense journey to get there. Being an author, it's an intense journey. So what I'm trying to do with this community and with the consultants and the dream team and the vendors and everybody else with their experience is to keep us from reinventing the wheel, because I just don't need to know everything there is about driving a car. I know how to start the engine. I know how to stir it, stop and start. And I know what the doors are for. And I know to put air in the tires. And that's about all I care about. If it doesn't work right, then I know people who are Christian mechanics that I can call and ask, get advice from and things like that. That's what I'm trying to set up here. So what I'm going to ask you to do, I'm going to make a video, but I'm going to ask you to spend some time in this week, next week, and just go down through that side panel in the community and familiarize yourself with what is there, because every one of these sessions are recorded. And so if you want to know something about NFTs, that is recorded that Landon did. And you can go back and review it. And then if you want to talk to Landon, you go to the vendors and services and you find Landon's channel and you send Landon a message that says, I'm not clear on this. I'm not clear on that. Can you help me? Then Landon can say, okay, I don't have time to help everybody that's asking this. He can contact Nancy and say, I'd like to have a Thursday to talk more about NFTs. That's how the process is supposed to work. It's not working that way yet. We're getting there, but so much of this stuff is here for you. And that's why this community is set up so that you can get that counsel from people who know, like Gordon, Landon, Nancy, whoever, and you can put it to work for yourself and never leave this community. That's not necessarily my goal, but what I'm trying to say is it's all in here. And so you just need to know who to talk to, who to ask. And I would love it if you would reach out to other authors and bring them in, because the Bible says surround yourself with many counselors. And the more people we have in here, the more experience we have, the more questions that can be answered, the more help we get, the less money we spend, and it's a beautiful thing. Again, Nancy, thank you so much. This has been a real education for me. And everybody have a wonderful week. See you next week and enjoy the winter.
John, can I
Hi,
say
guys.
one more quick thing?
Yes.
Speaking of community property, I had an idea as you were talking and the others in the group. Why, and I don't know if it's ethical or not, why can't the group members chip in a couple of bucks to purchase one of these, or occasional $200 application, bring it into the group and make that community property that we can all have access to? Just a thought. I don't
Okay.
need an answer. I was just wondering if that would be something we could do to help each other out.
We'll think about that. We'll discuss it and see if it's a legal thing to do. And
Yeah.
but that's why people pay fees. That's why there's a monthly fee, so that we can do the things collectively that everybody's trying to do themselves. Okay. So Phil, you brought up a great point. I thank you for that. But that's what we're trying to do. And the more people we have in here and the more fees that are being paid, the more we can reach out. You understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
It's a ministry, but it's a business.
Right.
Okay.
I'm done.
Anybody else? All right. God bless you all. See you next week.
Yeah,
Bye, guys.
thanks, everybody.
Hi,
Great
guys.
job.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Over and out.
Thanks, Nance.